In today's video, we have a massive update in the tropical department as our potential tropical cyclone that we have been tracking for about a week now is now being picked up by more and more models with higher confidence. So not only that, but also the National Hurricane Center is now eyeballing this storm, finally basically putting out a percentage chance that this is going to develop. Again, we've been tracking this for quite a while now, ever since the models started showing it, and we're going to be going over those models once again today. We also have many other things happening across the entire United States that we're going to be going over, so rest assured, if you don't live in the typically tropical impacted areas, there is still some content for you guys today. Let's just go through it and take a look at later on this afternoon on Monday, July 29th. And we can see that there is going to be, first off, quite a bit of showers and thunderstorms here in the southwest of Canada and the northwest of the United States. We also have some isolated and scattered activity here across some of your Rockies and the northern plains. And then as we take a trek eastward here along the Gulf Coast, East Coast, Ohio Valley, and even into the Great Lakes, we do have numerous pockets of thunderstorms developing, especially here from the Great Lakes. And if you take that down through the Mid-Atlantic and even across some of the deeper south, that is going to be the main pockets of heaviest chances of thunderstorms, maybe back down through Florida there. There are some heavier ones out there. Pretty typical for a stormy summer day is what I would say later on this afternoon. Tuesday is a lot of the same. We see the Northwest and Northern Rockies by this point is seeing a pretty active pattern as far as rainfall is concerned. We do have some storms across the North Central and Upper Midwest states here. But the East, again, is going to be kind of the focus point here for the majority of these storms. We see from the Hudson Bay southward through some of the eastern Great Lakes, eastern Ohio Valley, into the southeast, mid-Atlantic, and northeast. All of these areas are experiencing some thunderstorms for the day tomorrow on Tuesday, July 30th. Let's once again take this towards Wednesday, July 31st. And what we're seeing here is the north central states like the northern and central plains, the upper Midwest here are now seeing some more active thunderstorms than they once were. We do have a low pressure system to the north, and this is likely causing some low pressure to overall be broad across the region and bring some storms to the south there. We do see that as we look eastward, there is still some storms here along the east, a little bit less than there once was. We're seeing mostly the northeast and then the southeast of Canada there as the most numerous thunderstorms there for Wednesday, July 31st. Thursday on August 1st, I can't believe we're already almost to August. We see that there is the Four Corner States experiencing some isolated showers and thunderstorms here by this point. We also see that for the north central states, back down through the deeper south, we are seeing quite a bit of thunderstorms in these areas as well. Again, upper Midwest, Great Lakes here, Northeast seeing some heavier pockets, and then even Virginia and the eastern regions of North Carolina for Thursday, August 1st, we are seeing some thunderstorms popping up. Friday here on August 2nd, it only gets worse. We see across a lot of the southwest and southern Four Corner states, we are seeing these thunderstorms, and then also the Midwest into some of the Mid-Atlantic here. We're seeing quite a bit through the Great Lakes, again, into the Mid-Atlantic there. We're seeing a whole lot of thunderstorms being possible. Keep in mind that this is also when we have this tropical cyclone entering into the Bahamas area here. So we see overall a lot of moisture down here. This is what we've been seeing for days. And I want to mention we're about 5 days out from this point. I think the most impressive thing is that every single day we have seen this model put this storm in the same exact spot. It's very rare that beyond 5 days you have a model showing anything really consistently like this, especially a specific detail like this. But it's very interesting to see the confidence from this model. Not only that, the ensemble model of the European model, and then also the AI model. They've all three just been in unison showing this storm exactly this way. Now, the only thing is that after this point, we do see some changes. And today, we do see this model show a landfall, unfortunately. So we're seeing a big change in that department. For the first time, really, since we've been tracking these models, we see this coming a lot closer to land. So here's Saturday the 3rd afternoon. We see it's still a weaker low pressure system, but it is strengthening slowly but surely. We see the southwest dealing with some isolated thunderstorms. Also, the east, once again, getting pretty active here for some spots, especially the Carolinas and the Ohio Valley there. Um, let's take this towards Sunday the 4th, and we see that we get some pretty quick development here. Again, we've been talking about it, but we have a cold front reaching towards the east here. We have this tropical low moving on shore, and typically they're going to ride along each other there. So we can expect that wherever that cold front ends up, this tropical cyclone is going to move along it. Keep in mind that that cold front is moving eastward, though, as we speak. Well, not as we speak, but from this point forward on the model run. So it'll likely be very close to the coast as this low rides along it, not that far inland. So let's watch it develop. Well, quickly, I guess I should mention, this is actually some pretty strong looking thunderstorms along that cold front already. So we're kind of going to get a combination or a mix with interaction between this tropical cyclone and this very strong line of thunderstorms. Just not really boding well, right? That just doesn't sound good at all. I think even to somebody who doesn't know a whole lot about weather, they could tell you that that doesn't sound very good. And it typically does lead towards a messier situation. Here's Monday, August 5th, and we see that this low is reaching towards eastern North Carolina into the southeast Virginia area. Likely as a tropical storm. I would say that this isn't a hurricane on this model run. The early impact to land would likely hold it back from further development. So that is the one saving grace here. But definitely having a landfall there, maybe near Beaufort, North Carolina, is just not good whatsoever. Or near the Morehead City area, I should say. I think they're pretty close. We do see that there is some areas in the Northeast experiencing thunderstorms still. We also see along that Canadian-U.S. border, we are seeing some showers and thunderstorms, but pretty quiet outside of this tropical cyclone along the east. As we reach towards Tuesday the 6th, we see it does actually develop quite quickly once it reaches back offshore of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast down to a 993. And it is a quite intense storm, but it does basically, for the most part, innocently move back offshore after that point on Tuesday. So very interesting. Here's Wednesday. For a lot of the north, we are seeing thunderstorms continue. So there's going to be chances in many different areas here across the north, like I mentioned. We also see some of the south, but not as much as the north, which is kind of the opposite of normal. Let's take a look at the GFS model, and I guess, spoiler alert, we don't really see much happen here. So we've seen this model kind of not want to show it for a while now. We've seen a couple of runs where there's something, but this is the entire model run, and it's nowhere to be found, really. So we were just going to glance at this and basically move past it. Here is your total precipitation, and what's funny is you can see the track of the tropical cyclone in the total rainfall. You can totally make out exactly where it is, which just shows you how much moisture is within a storm like this. Very, very intense moisture, lots and lots of rainfall for the areas struck by a storm such as this one. Outside of that storm, I mean, we do see that there is some more active areas, and that's mostly going to be an area like this from the upper Midwest and Northern Plains through the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and down through the Southeast. Kind of dodging the deeper south on this particular model run. We're drying up the further west you go. So we're going to see this on the precipitation anomalies, but definitely slowed down for some areas. And then here's those anomalies. We're kind of getting less and less green every model run. We do see that again, Northern Plains, Upper Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast are going to be the highest above average, which is funny, especially since we have below average precipitation in the Southeast areas, which, if you guys have watched every video, you know I've been talking about this. After we had that insane amount of storminess, I told you guys, I think it's going to dry up. It really looks like we're going to see a drier pattern for these same areas very soon, and here we are dealing with some very far below normal precipitation now. Very interesting. But it's funny how big of a fall from grace this is. We were dealing with the blues for this area, 2, 3, 4 inches above average for a lot of these areas in here. And now we're in the below average to maybe average category. So very, very interesting. Now, here's the temperature pattern. We have a lot more in the tropical department, so stay tuned with us. But we do see that we are experiencing a warm-up basically from the 1st of August, 2nd of August, through the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, maybe 8th here. But then we do see some cooler air start to intrude here after that first week of August. So definitely some cooler temperatures. It looks a little further east than we've seen in recent model runs, but these greens are going to be pretty significant. This would feel like fall, by the way. For mid-August, we're already dropping in average temperatures, believe it or not, by mid-August slightly. The peak is going to be kind of like mid to late July for most areas. Once we're reaching mid-August, we might have lowered by a degree, maybe two, from your highest peak summer averages. Doesn't really play too much of a factor, but when we're looking at 10 to 15 degrees below normal there in that green, that is certainly going to be fall-like temperatures for many areas, especially that far north. Now back to the European AI model. Let's take a look here at what this one has to say for this tropical cyclone. And again, we end up in the Bahamas with it, so very, very on par with what we saw from the typical European model. This one has AI involved in it, so it's very, very interesting. Let's just zoom in here. I like the zoomed in look. I haven't been doing that a lot in recent months, but I feel like we get a really good view here. So we see it develop. It kind of scrapes through the islands of Freeport there, and it really curves back out to sea on this one. So we do get a little bit of disagreement there, definitely compared to what we saw on the typical European model. And it just moves way offshore comparatively. Again, your European model we saw strike like this and something like this. And on this AI model, which I'll do in a different color to make things easy, we see a lot further offshore, hundreds of miles of difference, or potentially 100 or 200, I would say, maybe not hundreds. But very interesting to see that big of a difference in this tropical cyclone path. Now, a lot of people commented, why are you calling a hurricane a tropical cyclone? And the reason being is because it's not a hurricane yet. It is not a hurricane. It's not even a tropical storm. But what it is it is a tropical cyclone. A tropical cyclone is not an intensity marker. It's just what it is. It's just an overall broad statement of what tropical systems are from start to finish, the weakest to the strongest. They're tropical cyclones. Whereas a tropical depression, tropical storm, hurricane, they're all rankings of the intensity of that tropical cyclone. So it's not appropriate to me, especially, to call it a tropical depression, tropical storm, hurricane, when it is definitely not. It's nothing yet. So that is the reason why we call it that. Now, the probabilities on your European ensemble model, which we've been taking a lot of looks at this week, has gone up significantly. And for a reminder for those of you that are just viewing for the first time here, the European ensemble model is a grouping of 20 to 30 different models that are slightly different from each other, and we're taking the mean average of all of those and putting it here. And this is percentages, so if we see 80 to 90%, that means that 80 to 90% of those 20 to 30 models are showing us at tropical depression status later on. So what we see here is we've gone... Basically, we're all the way up, I think, to 70-80%, which is this orange outside of that kind of red color. We had gotten up to that 2 days ago, and then we dropped all the way back down to the yellow for yesterday. And now we've really rebounded. Now we're seeing even this 80 to 90% chance of tropical depression over the Bahamas. So certainly increasing vastly in this department. Tropical storm status we see mostly off the East Coast. But this is all the way up to 50 to 60% chance for tropical storm. And that little blob of hurricane probability has gone up offshore of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. It hasn't gone up in percentage, better yet, it's gone up in space. It's a lot bigger than it once was because it was very tiny, which does mean something. But definitely, and I just moved it forward a day. I don't know why we were looking at I want to just refresh everybody on them because I had it at 9 days instead of 10. So here's the full 10-day run. Tropical depression, tropical storm odds, hurricane odds. And actually, look at the tropical storm. I'm glad I did that. We actually get up to 60 to 70% chance there in that orange offshore of North Carolina. So that has gone up quite significantly. Again, here's the hurricane probabilities. And finally, here is the National Hurricane Center outlook as of this morning. And we are a code orange for these areas. We have a 50% chance over the next 7 days of development, which is a pretty decent chance, especially in the long range like that. Typically, they start very low on the percentages and want to bring them up slowly. We can see that they give a very, very broad area, although I would kind of say that, the almost every single model one I've seen has put it in the northern half of this cone. or I should say the northwest or the northeast corner of this cone. If you were to kind of draw it in half like this, the majority have been there to the north. Could trend south, of course, but that's just my 2 cents. We're going to track this really, really closely over the coming days as we move forward. Of course, I should mention we have a 0% chance of development over the next 48 hours, as this is a more medium term tropical cyclone, of course, but we're going to be watching it ever so closely as we have for the past few days. So be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.